What up, guys? So today's question comes from Jose, who's a guy about my age, and his wife recently asked him for a divorce. And so he's going through it. He is, in his own words, an emotional wreck, and he's dealing with it. Now, he's been training jiu-jitsu for about 3 or 4 years now, and he sent me a message and was just asking, like, Chewy, man, I've been training for a long time, but right now my head's all over the place. I'm an emotional wreck. In this sort of situation, would you keep training? And the reason why I ask is because he's worried that if he keeps training, he might bring all this frustration and anger onto the mat, and he doesn't want to burst into tears, in front of his training partners and his buddies. And so he's just kind of, again, he's all over the place right now. And so I believe that he sends the message from a place of like just looking for a friend to talk about with, right? And sends me the message. So would you continue training through the divorce? And so, brother, thank you for the question. Now, I've never been through a divorce, so I don't know. I've been through a pretty rough breakup, as I'll share in just a second. I'm doing the video because, again, it's kind of a different type of video than we normally do on the channel. It's not really related to a technique, but I'm doing it because for me, training has always been sort of a really important thing all the time in my life, but especially during those periods where things get really nasty. Back in my early 20s, I was in a relationship with a woman for several years, and there was a point where essentially had oriented myself around this woman and a lot of the things that she wanted, and had bought a car, house, dog. I was working 40 to 60 hours a week at the job that I was at, and then basically trying to support her so that she could go to school, was doing all these different things, and again, oriented myself around what she had wanted. Because I wanted to, that's what I thought we were supposed to do, right? So our relationship's humming along. Things, there were some things sometimes that were red flags, but again, you're trying to make it work, so you ignore them. Well, one day I find out, and again, I will keep this story relatively short, right? That she was cheating on me with a guy that she had met on EverQuest, right? So she was playing an online video game and she meets a guy, and they become chummy and interested in each other. And so again, I find this out. Now, again, at the point, I'll share this with you guys. I don't care. I have no ill will towards her. We've become, loose acquaintances, friends at this point. It's not a big deal. We were young and stupid. But at the time, I was pissed. I was really angry because I was like, I had done all this stuff to basically like, here you go. Like, it's like the guys, what we do. We like, here, I bring you gifts to the woman. Please accept me being your man. Here's these things I've given you, right? And she's like, nah, I'm going to go take this guy from EverQuest. Well, I was pretty pissed, and I told her, I was like, you get the hell out of the house. I don't like you anymore, all this stuff, whatever. Well, she did get the hell out of the house, and when she did, she took all the furniture because it was her furniture she had purchased. And so there was a point I remember where, sitting in the house, I'm like, well, I've got a futon mattress. That was it. A futon mattress and a pillow and a blanket on the floor. I was like, it wasn't much to look at. And bro, during that period, again, this isn't as bad as having a marriage. You can't just split up like that, but it was still a point where I felt lost. I had no idea what I was doing. I had just literally oriented myself around this other human being, and now I'm in a situation where I'm like, well, she's gone. What do I do now? And so it was at that point where training became really important, because there was a period for several months where I was very depressed, right? My energy levels were down. I was just a lot, but I remember I would feel better from training, right? I'd go into the gym, I'd lift weights, or I'd go do jiu-jitsu. And those activities became orienting activities. So think of it this way. Think of it if you've got a map in front of you and you're trying to figure out where the hell you're going. What do you got to do first? We need to orient ourselves with our compass. Which direction are we even going? And so training became that thing where no matter how bad I felt, no matter how bleak things seemed, I kind of knew what direction I was going in, right? I was still making progress to the things that were important to me. And honestly, I look back at those times and I was like, man, I'm glad they happened, because it became this thing where I really had to assess in my early 20s, what do I want? Because society has all these things that they're telling me that I should want. What do I want? And I really sat down and was like, all right, this is what I'm doing, and this is the direction I would like to go. And I'm glad I learned that lesson early. So in the end, I'm glad it happened. And so I was looking at it like that, right? And later on. But again, it's an orienting activity. And being able to orient yourself is very important if you're lost, right? If you can see the destination that you're trying to go to, then you don't need to orient yourself. You don't need a map. It's right there. But during those periods of time where you get lost, where you're unsettled, you don't know what's going on, you need something. And so for me, those activities have always been that way. Also, just as an aside, the training itself is almost like it's like therapy. I remember hearing Ricardo Laborio say that we were at the Origin camp last year, and people were asking questions, and one of the things that he said, I was like, this is so true. He's like, at some point, we may come in for competition, we may come in for exercise, whatever, right? But at some point, jiu-jitsu becomes almost therapy for us. We go in and it's like our way to like cleanse ourselves, right? Through physical training. And that stuck with me because I'm like, I think that's true. I think a lot of us do that. Yes, we might have periods of competitiveness and all these things, but if nothing else, a lot of times, a lot of us come into the gym and it's just like, whatever problems you have, whatever burdens you're shouldering at the time, you come in and you train and it's just like, it like cleanses you. You just get, you're more relaxed. You get out and some guy cuts you off in traffic, you don't care. I remember during those periods of time where the woman, she had just broken up with me. I'm sitting in this empty ass house and I'm like, well, at least I have my friends, because I was at the gym and everything else, and I'm still making progress to the things I find important. And, plus I'd be tired from training. So I'm like, I want to go to sleep now, and I'd wake up and it'd be a better day. Right. And so, again, kind of long winded as usual, right? Of course I would tell you to keep training. And this is one of the reasons why after I started getting into relationships again following this one, I always told the women that I got on dates with, I'm like, look, this thing that I do, it is not a negotiable. Like, you don't get to tell me I don't do it. I will do it, and it's always going to be there. And so as long as you're okay with that, this is this thing I do and I have to do it. It's not an option, right? And you have to be okay with that. And, again, there were relationships that it sometimes seemed like pretty good ones, but, again, I couldn't take them on because they wanted me to not do this thing that I was doing. And it's one of the reasons why me and my wife work out so well now, because she's willing to let me train. But again, that's neither here or there. I'm just sort of rambling at this point. My advice to you, I don't have advice really, but my sort of from friend to a friend who's gone through some stuff similar, right? Yeah, keep training, bro. Keep training, keep making progress towards things that are important to you, and don't isolate yourself because you're worried about breaking up into tears. You're probably not going to anyway, but even if you do, it'll be one of your buddies on the mat and they'll talk to you, and probably if you start talking to some of them, you might find that a lot of them have gone through the same thing. I think community is super important at those periods of time. So anyway, brother, that is the message to you. Jose, good luck to you, and anybody else going through some of that stuff, I wish you the best of luck, and I'll talk to you guys next time.